the fight.
Good morning. Happy Thursday. I'm Joey Gunnar. Welcome to From the Nosebleeds. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Here with Will Peterson. Will, how are you feeling today?
I'm great, Joey. I'm great, man. It's always nice to get to Thursday of a Broncos week. Feels like the game is finally right around the corner once again.
Finally. And that's what we're going to be talking about here today because we know what the game looked like last time they played the Raiders. I'm expecting a totally different look and feel to the way the Broncos play against the Raiders this weekend. But that begs the question, who's going to be the guy? Maybe there'll be a few. Who is going to be that player that has people turning heads and has people looking at the box score and saying, wow, he went off. Last week, it was Evan Ingram up against the Commanders, and 1 week where you have a good game out of a full season, a season where you are expected to be the Joker as proclaimed by Sean Payton, that's not enough. This feels like a week where he could go out and have another great performance up against this Raiders defense, which really hasn't been all that terrible all season. I mean, they held the Broncos to 10 points. Maybe this is a chance for Bo Nix to connect with Evan Ingram more, just the same way he did last week up against the Commanders. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I love that pick because, listen, Evan Ingram had his biggest play in a Broncos uniform on Sunday against the Commanders. I mean, his 41-yard down the middle in overtime was just absolutely massive. And if you go watch all the angles of that, Joey, he made Bobby Wagner look silly. And Bobby Wagner may not be the Bobby Wagner we remember with Seattle, but this guy could be a Hall of Famer one day. And Ingram danced him out of his shoes, and then Bo Nix had the perfect throw down the middle of the field. That, to me, was vintage Joker. That's what Sean meant when he got a Joker, a guy who can open up the middle of the field. Felt like all year the Broncos are going outside. They finally use the middle of the field, and it propels the touchdown drive in overtime that ultimately wins the football game. And why not? Why not ride Ingram now when he's hot? And honestly, as the chemistry continues to develop, you know, I know a lot of folks were down on Evan Ingram through the first 6, 7, 8, 9 games of the year. But imagine if that Commanders game is a springboard. He goes out there against the Raiders, puts up, 70, 80 yards receiving. And then these last 4 games after that, they continue to develop this rapport. All of a sudden going to the playoffs, Evan Ingram's going to be such a bigger talking point than what Broncos country initially thought they were getting as this season unfolded. Everyone was excited during free agency, and then everyone was bummed in September and October. And then hopefully with another big week this week, everyone can be excited again as we head toward the postseason.
Yeah, and I love that you brought the middle of the field because I think back to the biggest play arguably last season. And what I think of as the most successful play was that Marvin Mims catch up against the Browns. And I'm thinking middle of the field, you're targeting downhill. That's what Bo Nix really excelled at last season. I mean, he was great at hitting those deep balls. Now you got a guy who feels confident and had that chance to show what he can do in that Joker position last week. And last time he ended up, Evan Ingram played the Raiders. He only had 2 receptions for 12 yards. But then last week up against the Commanders, 6 receptions for 79 yards. So one game isn't anything. One game isn't something you can hang your hat on and say, we'll be able to do this every single game. You know, you can't expect that, especially from a tight end. 6 receptions for 79 yards is an outstanding number. But you can expect 4 receptions for 40 or 50 yards. And if he does something like that up against the Raiders, then I'll be confident in looking at Evan Ingram as a real target for Bo Nix going into these last 5 games, going into the playoffs. You know, you're looking at a new developed piece on this offense, one that hasn't been there all season. So Evan Ingram, that would be one of my X factors for this game. But another one, and this is a guy that I really haven't had much hope in. I haven't had too much great things to see out of him this season. It's RJ Harvey. RJ Harvey has had opportunities to go out there and do big things. He's had a couple of really big plays. But last week, you know, people were looking at fantasy numbers and those 2 touchdowns, and they were like, wow, RJ Harvey had a really great game. But did he? Did RJ Harvey have all that great of a game? He had 13 carries for 35 yards and 2 touchdowns. This is a game, again, where he's going to get 12, 13, 14 carries. Do something with that, RJ. You have the offensive line. You saw what J.K. Dobbins was able to do behind this offensive line. Run like him. Stop bouncing it outside. We could see him be one of the X factors this weekend as well.
Yeah, definitely. Although, let's not sell RJ too short, at least in my eyes, because first of all, this Broncos defense or offense has struggled in the red zone, and at least RJ did punch in 2 scores. It felt like they were settling for so many field goals, and particularly in overtime, you had to get a touchdown on that first drive. You don't want to have the tie come into play, anything like that. And obviously they needed every single point with the Commanders going down and matching a touchdown. And then 2, he was a factor in the pass game last week as well. So I know everyone wants to just look at the rushing numbers, but, in OT, he had the 12-yard catch from Bo that really started that drive as well. We've seen some incredible pass-catching touchdowns from him this year. I get it. He's a second-round pick. Broncos country wants him to put his head down and run up the middle of the field. And I understand we haven't seen that yet. But I also don't think we should poo-poo a guy who scored 2 touchdowns and was a factor in the pass game as having some sort of bad game against Washington. You're not the only one who's doing it. A lot of Broncos country is doing it. I'm willing to give him a little bit of grace because I still think he's the best option, unfortunately, with Dobbins going down. That said, Joey, if he could run for like 80, 90 yards this weekend, I think a lot of people in Broncos country would take a deep breath and say, okay, the Rook has finally figured it out. You're right. The best point you made was he can't every single time try to go outside because you know where that works? That works in the Big 12 when you're the fastest guy on the field. Oh, boop, boop, see ya. Doesn't work in the NFL. The guys are too fast. The linebackers are too fast. The edge rushers are too fast. It just isn't going to be an effective strategy for him. So I know it's late. It's December. This feels more like a training camp issue than a solve in December issue. But hopefully the Broncos coaches can get through his head. You have to trust this O-line, and you have to carry the football straight down the hole that they create for you.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the edge rusher on the Raiders named Max Crosby and trying to bounce it outside on him. That's not going to work. No. And also, I get that those 2 touchdowns are big. There have been red zone struggles, and he punched those in. But you put Adam Prentice in the game? He could have punched those in. I mean, seriously, like those are wide open holes. And again, yes, 2 touchdowns. Ended up having the game-winning touchdown in overtime. If you look at it that way, that's great. There's no denying that is a good, positive thing that came out of RJ Harvey's performance last week. I want to see consistent running out of him, not something where he can rush for 11 yards and then for the rest of the game, he's getting stopped 2 yards down the field. Because that's what I see a lot of RJ Harvey. He'll break one for a huge gain, and then every other play will be 1, 2, 3 yards gain. That's not consistent enough for me to look at him and be like, okay, this is a solid enough back where I can feel confident in this running back room. J.K. Dobbins, I could. He's a guy who's averaged 5 yards per carry throughout his entire career. He was a top 3 running back in the league before he went down with that injury earlier this season or midway through the season. There's no replacing him. There's definitely no replacing him now in December, but there is Band-Aids that you could put on this running back room, and RJ Harvey needs to be that Band-Aid. You need to get consistent carries out of him, consistent gains instead of one big one for 40 yards, and then every other one is falling 2 yards, 3 yards. That's something that I feel like they can fix up against this team, this Raiders team, who has been completely awful. If I can really say, I don't want to hate on them too much. I mean, they're still the little brother of the AFC West. It's kind of like
the Raiders. Hate on them all you want. They're the Raiders. No one likes them.
I guess. At a certain point of hating on the Raiders, I just feel a little bit of pity, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. But those are the offensive threats that could really be big. Defensively, though, there are some players that really shined last time the Raiders played the Broncos, and I expect them to shine again. Geno Smith has taken the 2nd most sacks in the league. Nick Bonito, Zach Allen, these guys are going to have a game on Sunday.
Yeah, let's hope they can eat because, honestly, Marcus Mariota, and I'm not going to call him Mariota like Chris Collins would. Marcus Mariota got the ball out so quickly, Joey. So is this a little bit of a blueprint that other offensive coordinators are going to be studying? Because they neutralized the Broncos' biggest threat, and that is sacking the QB, as you mentioned. And so I just hope that the Raiders don't come into this and have Geno just boop, 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 quick. Because if he takes his time, I promise you those guys are chomping at the bit to get back in the sack column in a big way. I think they ended up with 2. Obviously, the very infamous play in overtime where Mariota escapes somehow, some way. There's PI on Hufanga. The drive extends. They score the touchdown. It wouldn't shock me if the Broncos have 6, 7, 8 sacks on Sunday in a Geno takes too many sacks games, and B, a kind of revenge game, if you will, for their edge rushers. I promise you that Bonito, Allen, Cooper, NBC flash that graphic, only trio in the NFL with 6+ sacks each. I promise those guys are looking at the film against the Commanders going, dang, we did not get enough pressure on the quarterback. Now, that wasn't all their fault. because, again, he was releasing the football so quickly. But I like those two as X factors. Would it shock you if Benito had 2.5, 3 sacks on Sunday? I know that's a monster number, but it is the kind of game he is capable of, and it's definitely the kind of opponent that lends itself to that.
Yeah, it sounds crazy, but if Myles Garrett can do it, Nick Benito can do it. I mean, I know that Myles Garrett is one of the best defensive players of all time, but Nick Benito's playing at that level specifically this season. Now, is it sustainable for him? We don't know. But I mean, Nick Benito going up against this Raiders offense, again, you got to look at the numbers so far. Geno Smith has not been getting protected against regular teams. Now you're going up against one of the best pass rushing teams in the NFL and of all time. I mean, we were looking at this team earlier in the season and saying that there's a very real possibility that they break the sack record for a team. And they were like 15 sacks projected above where the prior record was held. Now that number's fallen off a bit. Obviously, those are early season numbers, but these are the kind of games where you go out there and add that sustainability, add that pressure to the QB. It's definitely gonna be a lot of fun. Before we move on to the next topic, I just want to get your score prediction. I'll get one tomorrow too when I get mine, but what do you think the score prediction is going to be for this weekend?
Yeah, listen, the Broncos during this 9-game winning streak, everyone says all they do is win close. All they do is win close. That was true in 7 of them, but 2 of the 9 were blowouts, right? The Bengals game was a blowout, 28-3, and then the Cowboys' final score was something like 44-24. Joey, they've played so many close games recently. They are due for another blowout. And I think the Raiders are 1-2-3 Cancun. I mean, everyone can say, oh, well, they have Pete Carroll. They're 2-10, guys. It's 1-2-3 Cancun. This team is counting down the days to the offseason. I can promise you that. Give me the Broncos 31-10 in their third blowout of what ultimately turns into a 10-game winning streak.
31-10. I like that a lot. I would love to see that. That's the kind of thing that would give you a jolt of energy going into what will be a tough 4-game streak to end the season. Those last 4 teams are going to be a lot tougher than the Raiders, so get your big wins when they're available. I really like that pick. But let's move on to what happened at Ball Arena yesterday, or not at Ball Arena, sorry, out in Indiana. We saw the resurrection of Jamal Murray. We were talking yesterday with Jake Shapiro about how he was dealing with this injury. We were a little bit worried. He left the game early against the Mavericks, and oh no, the Nuggets might lose another starter to an injury. Nope. Jamal Murray comes back and becomes the 3rd player this season to have a 50-point game. 52 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists. An absolute all-star performance from the future all-star this year. What a game, Will.
Yeah, Jamal was awesome last night, Joey. And listen, people can question Jamal for a handful of different things. And one of those things has been coming back in shape the last few years. Well, this year he did come back in shape. You know, we saw the pictures of him in Vegas at Summer League without a shirt. He was skinny. You know, people on the internet wanted to call him fat. And then he takes his shirt off in Vegas. It's like, he ain't fat. He worked out at Denver South with a bunch of, high school kids. And it was like, oh, Jamal looks good. Jamal looks in shape. And so that criticism has kind of gone away, as it should, because if guys show up in September ready to go, they deserve to be praised. I know they make a ton of money, but he hadn't done that the last few years. And then the other thing about Jamal that you can't criticize, Joey, is his toughness. Jamal Murray is a tough son of a gun. There are plenty of guys on max deals in the NBA who, if they rolled their ankle like he did against Dallas, would have said, I'm going to need 2 weeks. I'm going to need 3 weeks. That's just how the NBA culture works. Now, that's a whole different conversation. How do you fix it? But that's a reality of this league. And Jamal gets on a plane to Indiana. I'm sure you and Jake talked about it yesterday. I think most Nuggets fans felt it. No one thought he was going to play last night. Are you kidding me? It comes down to about 4:30 Mountain Time because it was a 5 o'clock tip here, 7 o'clock tip out there. And all of a sudden, it's Jamal's in. And I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm glad he's playing because he's tough. But also, realistically, what's he going to do tonight? Are we going to see a lot of Bruce Brown out there? Whatever. And then he comes out and has one of the most efficient games in NBA history. I think he was 10 of 11 from 3, pours in 52, hits us with a blue arrow. We haven't seen a blue arrow in years. And Jamal was feeling himself as he should be. And the Nuggets needed to win last night. I know the Pacers went to the finals last year, but they are injury ravaged this year. One of the worst teams in the NBA. Just a spectacular performance from Jamal. You don't normally remember December 3rd games in Indiana during an 82-game grind. But last night was special, and he was awesome.
Yeah, incredible. And I love that so much. And what I said to Jake yesterday was that I guaranteed his biggest advocate telling him to get back on the court is himself.
Yeah.
You know, he's searching an all-star this season. I want him to. I believe that he is. You know, this is a team that's never had an all-star play with Nikola Jokic in the same season. I know that there's DeAndre Jordan and there's Russell Westbrook, but in the same season that Nikola Jokic has been playing, he's never been on the all-star court with another teammate of his. This feels like that season. With a game like that, just that kind of stuff boosts your stock for an all-star by an incredible amount. The third player, as I said earlier, to have 50 points this season. We saw AG do it in the season opener against the Warriors, ended up losing that game. We saw Nikola Jokic do it up against the Clippers, and now Jamal do it. And what's crazy about all those 50-point games, they've all been on over 70% shooting from the field. Every single one of those players shot over 70%. And usually when we talk about these games where a player goes off for 50 with the Nuggets, we expect losses. In fact, Nikola Jokic, this was his only 50-point game this season that he's ended up winning in. Aaron Gordon, of course, lost his to the Warriors. That was a tough loss, but that's 2 games now where the Nuggets have had players that have gone out and shot a 50 ball and then ended up winning the game. That's the kind of thing that signals that this is an entirely new team this season, and I got to thank David Adelman for it because, you know, what was the major change made this season other than the additions to the roster? David Adelman, a great performance all around. Gotta love that. What do you think on the All-Star campaign? Do you think that this is a real opportunity, or is the West just too stacked with some guard talent?
Yeah, well, first of all, just real quick, not all 50-point games are created equally. And I'm glad you mentioned that when the Nuggets do it, they do it efficiently, right? Because there are guys in this league, and I won't name names, but you know what I'm talking about. They'll take 35 shots and get 50 points. I'm not all that impressed when you take 35 shots and get 50 points. That's like a Carmelo Anthony special back in the day. So it's great to see the Nuggets doing efficiently. And as far as the All-Star thing goes, I thought he's deserved it maybe 1 or 2 other times in his career. But the problem is it's been those slow starts that have plagued him, right? And this year that hasn't been a thing. The West is loaded. We know that, especially loaded at the guard position. So I'm not guaranteeing it by any means just because there are so many other guys who are going to get just that name recognition, if you will. But, Joey, if there is some sort of fairness to this process, then I will agree with you. Jamal Murray deserves his first All-Star nod this season.
Love it. Love it. I can hope and pray on it. I will continue to believe that this will be his first All-Star season. Imagine how much fun it'd be to see Nikola Jokic on an All-Star court with Jamal Murray, because we know how Nikola Jokic plays in the All-Star game. He just goes out there and passes the ball around. Maybe he shoots a couple threes, tries a weird dunk. But Jamal Murray, if he gets to the All-Star game, he's going for that MVP. He's going to put up another 50 ball on some 17 for 20 from the field. I would love to see that so much. But let's move over to a different ball arena team, because we know how good the Nuggets are, but the best team in Denver is playing, and the Avalanche have just been unstoppable. And the sports books, the record books, the NHL power rankings, everybody is talking about how good the Avs are. They have been on an incredible tear, 19-1-6, leading the entire league by 3 points. The team below them, the Dallas Stars, is 3 points behind the Avs, but have played 2 more games than the Avs. They have just been absolutely incredible, and it comes down, first the depth, but you look at the 2 best players. They are leading these award races in the odds by incredible margins. Nathan Mackinnon is minus 210 to win the Hart Trophy, and Cale Makar minus 550 to win the Norris Trophy. Just incredible so far.
Yeah, I came dressed appropriately. I know you can't really see it, but
there we go.
Yeah. Listen, man, Cale deserves the Norris slam dunk, no doubt about it. It'll be the 3rd of his career. Minus 550. We don't have to dive too much into the gambling thing, but that is an overwhelming favorite for those not super familiar with it. And then McKinnon being minus 210 at this juncture in the season. Are you kidding me? I mean, normally at this point in the year, you've got 3 or 4 guys that are plus 300, plus 400. Clearly, the odds makers think he's going to win it, and he deserves it. He honestly should have 2 in his career. Remember, 6-7 years ago, whatever it was, might have been 7-8 years ago at this point, he lost to Taylor Hall. What are we doing? I mean, Taylor Hall's a fine NHL player, but he had some random one-off, and they just gave him the MVP for the hell of it. So McKinnon's been snubbed at least once before, maybe twice. He should get his 2nd Hart this year, while Makar gets his 3rd Norris. And listen, man, people want to say it's cover bust. It's definitely cover bust. I will agree on that. But also, can we live in the moment? Can we be where our feet are, to get super cliche on you? Like, yeah, we all want them to win in April, May, and June, and they have to win in April, May, and June. But also, as fans need to realize, and I think the majority of them do, but some don't, this is a historically great team playing a historically great regular season with the two best players on earth. So soak it in, watch every game, have fun, enjoy it. Yes, the playoffs are going to be nail-biting time, particularly when they get Dallas because of Gary Bettman's stupid bracket where they're almost assuredly going to have to play the Stars sooner rather than later in the postseason. But at the same time, man, McCarr, MacKinnon, Wedgwood, Blackwood, Gabe Landeskog coming into form, Mackinnon, Nichushkin. I mean, I could go on and on. Marty Necas. Like, this team is just a wagon, and I want Avs fans to appreciate it rather than sitting here going, well, all I care about is April. I don't care about April right now. I'll care about April when it's April. I'm going to enjoy the Avalanche right now playing an unbelievable brand of hockey.
I love that because that's exactly why I wanted to do this. We are in December right now, and we're looking at the two best players running away with the odds to win their respective trophies. And overall, as a team, the Avs are outscoring their opponents. I think they're averaging 406 goals per game, and they're allowing 2.03. So they've just been absolutely incredible, and that's exactly what we should be talking about here in December. We're not talking about, oh, what's it going to look like in April? We're talking about how are they playing right now, and can they continue at this level? And yes, they can continue at this level. And they were playing at this level for a couple of weeks without Val Nichushkin, and now he's back too. And they're just continuing to dominate teams. They just won 3-1. They continue to play. They're going to play again tonight against the Islanders at 5 p.m. Should be another blowout win for the Avs. I love this kind of conversation so much because you just got to take it in, breathe in the air. Same thing with the Nuggets. Just breathe in the air. Look at how they're playing right now. And come April, we're going to be looking at some teams in the playoffs who are going to make a deep run in their respective championships. Will, thank you so much for joining. What a fun few conversations we got to have today. Everybody else, thank you all for joining. I will see you all tomorrow. Until then, y'all have a great rest of your day. Bye, y'all.